it became the most profitable campaign they had in their 14-year history after they used Ytel. They were calling out to was so impressed that they moved 100% away from buying calls in the open market and just using Call Core, who is using our technology for their sole lead generation source. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking lead generation, this is basically how we were able to increase that 100% plus the number remediation to increase. Uh, we saw 10% in or 10x, excuse me, a 10x increase in the connection rates.
All right. Hi, guys. Hey, we got another episode that I'm doing here of Sumitly Sessions. Super excited. Today, we've got my longtime friend, Jay Oliver, with us from Sharpen. I'm sure a lot of my network actually know Jay. We've crossed paths and we've been in this space for a long time. So excited to spend some time with Jay, kind of digging into some different ROI use cases and everything. Jay, why don't you give a little bit of background on yourself, kind of how long you've been in the space and what you're doing now at Sharpen for everybody?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a minute. We've been around the bush a lot, you and I. So it's good to get on with you guys and talk a little bit, talk shop. Gosh, my background. Man, I've started in the industry here back at a little company called In Contact before Nice gobbled it up and became the leader in the contact center technology industry. I actually started as a business development rep. I was making dials, and smiling and dialing,
Mm-hmm.
cold calling. Made my way around, was able to do some selling, moved into the channel, was able to do some channel work, led some teams, and then actually moved over to all of global enablement for NICE, which is a different spot for a salesperson, right? Just doing the trainings of the method and operation, which was really fun. Found a niche. Then I went back into leadership, into sales leadership, and with that kind of unicorn put togetherness, usually you don't have sales reps. They love their money. They would never be a teacher, and vice versa, right? And so
Yep.
with me, it was something that I ended up loving, and so utilizing that as a sales leader, which is what I'm doing now today at Sharpen, which is we are a contact center technology company, more of like a communications platform. And what I do is I run a sales team there. I run the sales team, channel team, business development team, and I'm a sales engineer as well. So underneath me. So that's what I'm doing right now, and seems to all translate pretty well. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still in the same in the same pot with the same folks. It looks like
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Everyone kind of bounces around in this space a little bit, but it's kind of
Mhm.
fun to see old faces. And we're playing with new technologies a little bit now. And there's a lot of things that have
Definitely.
happened since you and I worked together back in contact. But
Hmm.
Sharpen's a cool platform, and as we've kind of dug into it and got involved in some different customer opportunities and things, I've really been impressed by what you guys are doing over there. One of the things I tell a lot of my clients is one of my favorite things about working in my role where I'm an objective advisor to my clients is the fact that not a single solution is a fit for every business, right? And so there's value in having all of these different providers out there and solutions that are available to businesses because everyone has different needs and budgets and size and all those kinds of things. And so
Yeah.
as you've got into Sharpen and you're building the sales team and you can see the evolution with product, maybe give everybody just a little bit of an understanding of where you guys are seeing most of your successes with clients. What aspect of the market do you target with Sharpen? What businesses do you see are the best fit for what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of I would say a little bit of a story here. So Sharpen actually started from a few guys that actually built the code for i3, so interactive intelligence, which became
Mm-hmm.
the contact center platform for Genesis, as everybody
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
And so that was the genesis, no pun intended, of Sharpen, how we got started back in the day. And so we started off as a contact center technology company, but then realized that the space is crowded, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
With it almost seems like at this point, especially with AI being out, any two guys with a computer can come up with a solution. And so really what we decided to do at Sharpen was switch up the way that we go to market, as well as uh, I guess, whom we speak to and who we actually uh, market towards. So I would say we're more on the mid-market SMB side of the house
Okay.
with what it is that we offer. Now we have a couple of customers that have, in the thousands of seats. But that's not really where we do our most damage, I would say. I'd say we're the best at the small to medium business area for the communications side of the house.
Okay. And you guys do more than just contact center, right?
Yeah. So, man, what's actually has happened is that throughout the last couple of years, we've actually purchased a couple of companies and brought them together under the same umbrella. So there is actually a company called WebText that we were utilizing for SMS we've actually brought that into our fold, as well as a company called Plum. Plum is Plum IVR for the folks who a little bit old school side of the house, but that's we actually brought in Plum IVR for our VXML and being able to bring over legacy legacy voice to be able to create those call flows and things like that. So Plum, and then most recently, actually last year, at the end of last year, we brought on a company called Ytel, which is they're one of the leaders in the outbound space. So we've been
Hmm.
seeing a huge success recently there because it's a quicker turnaround than a contact center opportunity, as you can probably guess. And
Yep.
so we've been seeing huge success there. And like I was saying, we kind of came to market a little bit different to where we've started to create a go-to-market strategy where we provide everything that we offer as kind of like a modular state. And what I would say is that we have like the analogy would be this. If you all remember, and I'm sure you remember, Chris, which is I'm looking at like cable TV, right? You had like a couple of channels, channel 3 back when we were kids, channel
Mm.
13.
Yeah.
And then Dish Network and DirecTV came out, right? And it was like, hey, let's bundle everything together. You have 200 different channels. Well, are you watching all 200? Probably not, but you
Yeah.
still get that
No.
package. And then it switched again, right? When it went back, well, how about just Netflix and just Hulu and just get your own channel and just pay the subscription for HBO Max? And as you can start to see it going back again, well, if you buy YouTube TV, we'll throw in Max and Disney and Hulu. So we kind of followed that same model with the contact center industry as well, where we saw everybody, hey, let's bundle everything. You get everything outbound, inbound, everything you want, everything you don't want, all under a same license. To where we started to go I guess I'll call it the Netflix way, to where you don't have to choose the entire contact center solution to get our products. So we offer most of our things standalone. If you need that, I'm talking SMS, IVR. If you wanted to buy conversational AI by itself, you can. If you want to get just a dialer and add it on to some of our current competition, then you definitely could do that as well. At that point, they become more of a frenemy than
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's actually where we started to see some success. We're unfortunately, or maybe fortunate, in the industry I'm seeing, and I don't know if you can confirm this, a lot of people aren't as excited to rip and replace their system as they were back in 2015 and 2016. A lot of those companies have started to make some changes to that, right? And so
Hmm.
now they kind of just need onesie twosie, like let's just get some different technology here instead of ripping out my Genesis, my 5.9 8x8 talk test Genesis. And that's where we've started to see some success, right? You don't have to with Sharpen. Let's just get the dialer. Let's just see if we can add in some number remediation, which is kind of like a spam likely, something that will kind of scrub your numbers and just keep your current contact center solution. But this is something we can offer you. So
Sure.
that is
Cool.
where our go to market has been, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I've definitely seen, some similar trends. I feel like the base contact center platforms out there have kind of gotten to a point where they're pretty solid, they're pretty established. There's not a lot of pain as far as
Right.
basic IVR, basic routing, basic
Right.
reporting, all of that stuff, pretty much they're all doing well and it's fine. Like to your point, back in the day when people were moving to cloud and all of that, there were massive discrepancies between uptime and reports and data access and things like that, and that would motivate people to switch their entire platform. The other
Yeah.
thing that I'm seeing too is a lot of companies are starting to deploy point solutions for those specific pain points because they feel like using maybe a general contact center provider who has started to dabble in all these other things, maybe they don't have as much expertise in that one space as some of these solutions that
Right.
are available with a point solution. So yeah, no, I
Yeah.
definitely see that. And I'm interested today to talk a little bit more about maybe some specific use cases. As you've shared, you guys are seeing a lot of success with kind of the outbound with the Ytel acquisition, and breaking up the platform into different pieces. So, for my network and followers out there, I would love to get their wheels spinning as far as, what are some of those use cases where you've seen a customer come in who's been struggling with this or that, or they've been trying to accomplish this within the business, and
Yeah.
then by deploying Ytel, like, oh my gosh, we got this kind of ROI impact. So I know you had a couple in mind, but what are some examples that kind of come to mind for you when you talk about impact, ROI, things like that you can think of?
Yeah. Some of the best ones are going to be tied to some sort of business outcome that has to do with saving money or making money. Now,
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying anything that's wild. But let me see if I can bring up one that has to do actually with revenue increase. So we actually have a company that we work with called CallCore. Work with now. They're a current customer of ours. So and I don't know if you know too much about CallCore, but they're kind of like a performance-driven outbound operation, and they have hundreds of
Okay.
employees,
Yeah.
thousands of dials a day. And this is where, on our side of the house, the outbound piece can be sold standalone instead of you have to buy inbound and outbound, right? This is something that we can focus towards just that pain point, like you were saying. But like I said, hundreds of thousands, or sorry, thousands of dials a day, hundreds of employees. And what they were doing is they actually came to us looking for a way to improve their dialing performance. Because right now, what they do for like, obviously a business is being able to dial out and be able to convert those leads into obviously contacts, which are then sales for them.
Yeah.
But basically, what they were trying to do is they're looking to improve that dialing performance, and we were able to really change more of I guess it would be the trajectory of their business. So let me give you some numbers towards that.
Yeah. Perfect.
So some of the things they were looking to do um, before they had us, right now they had about a 1.0 to 1.1 TPH, which is the transfer per agent per hour. So what that means is that you're dialing out utilizing the tools or AI and things like that. And once it reaches said prospect, then it would transfer to obviously a live person that can sell this, or to a bot that can sell this. So the transfer rate is what they were looking at as far as a kind of a lead measure, right?
Okay.
So they were doing
And just
1.1.
to
After,
so
go
and
ahead.
that's so they're using a predictive dialer mechanism going through some kind of list,
Yeah. So
and they
exactly.
were only getting one live person connected to an agent every hour.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And then
Okay.
those for the business development people in the industry know that that's unfortunate, but that's necessary.
Sure. Yeah.
That's kind of the
Dialing
world we
is,
live in, right?
yeah, people don't answer a lot of phone calls, but if you think, like you
Right.
said, when you're the business and you're like, okay, I've got this army of 100 or multiple hundred agents, and they're going to
hmm
sit there and they're going to get one call an hour. Like you're just like, oh my
Right.
gosh, that's pretty painful. But
And it's painful as a leader, right? Or as the owner of the company, where you're like, hey, I'm paying these salaries and I'm getting people to have one
yeah,
call an hour. That sounds like not a lot. Now, in retrospect, right, the numbers going back and forth, that's pretty standard. What we were able
hmm
to do though is after they decided to move on to Ytel, which is a Sharpen company now, is it jumped immediately 100%. So it jumped to two, just immediately
geez,
utilizing our
yeah,
dialer modes and the different types of things that we have with our specific dialer. One of the things we added as well is that number reputation. We call it number reputation, but basically it's that spam likely. Being able to scrub those numbers and not just have to buy new DIDs, meaning most companies just buy a bunch of numbers. Once they become spam, they kind of throw them away and buy new ones.
hmm
Um, and it's kind of costly. So instead, what we were able to do is use number reputation or number remediation, and they could keep a lot of their DIDs because we're a carrier ourselves, be able to scrub that, let it sit, or what we call rest it, and then put it back into rotation. So their contact rates doubled as well. So not only are they getting more transfers, but now they're also having more people answer the phone, which is wild, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
cold calling world, or being able to do that. So after the
Cool.
content rate doubled, it was their conversion rate and per transfer improved. One of the things they said to me, which was interesting, is that it became the most profitable campaign they had in their 14-year history after they used Ytel. So I was thrilled to hear that. Obviously, as that's a pretty wild statement to say, um, but they're actually one of their clients that they were calling out to was so impressed that they moved 100% away from buying calls in the open market and just using Call Core, who is using our technology for their sole lead generation source. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking lead generation, this is basically how we were able to increase that 100% plus the number remediation to increase. We saw 10% or 10x, excuse me, a 10x increase in the connection rates. So
Wow.
obviously, for the people who aren't utilizing that or really understanding maybe what I'm talking about in that world, it's just being able to have 10 times more people answer the phone. So I get a pitch at least ten more times, right?
Yeah.
Me, the company who's utilizing the Whitetail system.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I even have clients that aren't necessarily outbound shops. They're not doing sales. One client is a large healthcare organization. They have 200 plus locations across the country, and even they have run into issues where their phone numbers are being categorized as spam. So for those of the listeners who haven't run into this before, as Jay kind of mentioned, what'll happen is based on a whole variety of different things, your phone numbers can get categorized as spam. Sometimes your cell phone,
Right.
like an iPhone or whatever, give you an opportunity to, like, if you don't recognize the number, you can say, that's spam or whatever. Even if it's
Right.
not, you can categorize it. And if enough of these different types of triggers happen, the carriers, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, will categorize those and put those into a spam bucket. Then,
100%.
as that number is called out, like if you get that call on your cell phone again, it proactively says spam. So who's going to answer that call at that point, right? If
Right.
it's proactively
Right.
being labeled as spam. And so again, you don't have to be a sales organization to have this issue. This healthcare client, they just had people in their clinics that were calling to follow up on appointments. Like maybe Jay had been to the doctor and I needed to call to let him know what his test results were or whatever. Well, that's not a call you want going to spam. That's a big, big
Right.
issue,
Exactly.
right? And
Uh,
so, yeah, so even if you're not a sales shop, that's something you definitely need to be aware of that you might not even know. If you're not
100%.
using a tool like what do you call it?
Number remediation or the
Number remediation.
number.
Yeah, if you're not,
Mhm.
if you don't have a platform like that from Sharpen, you have no visibility into which numbers of mine are being categorized as spam. So then you can't even do anything about it.
Right. Well, Chris, you brought up a good point. A lot of the companies don't know that their numbers are going out as spam. Why? Because the CEO and people aren't sitting there all the time monitoring each exact number that goes out. So this is something that unfortunately they will go sometimes months not knowing that they've been showing up as spam. One of the things I didn't talk to you really about, I gave you some numbers and how excited the company was, which is great, right? These are awesome things. There's some intangibles there that allow us to be a little bit different. So one of the things we did when we came into the industry is how were we going to be different? There's so many companies that provide contact center technology. So at best, if I'm just talking to you normally and
Yeah,
and not as an employee of Sharpen, at best, I'm going to be telling you I do everything that everyone else does, right?
sure.
So as a customer, you're like, cool, that didn't help me really decide who to go with. And at that point, you're looking at things what not to like, right? Or, oh, I like this purple hue on this UI, right? And there's
Yeah.
small things.
Or the
One of the things we
price or
decided to
whatever
do,
else.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But one of the things we ended up doing that changed it up is we said, okay, what were some of the things that we absolutely heard from our customers at different companies that we all worked at? We have like our CEO worked at Genesis. I worked at Nice. We had a couple guys that worked from Talkdesk, Five9, and so we kind of got in a room together. And we said, well, what were some of the things that our customers seemed to say when we were working at these other companies, what they didn't like, or what they weren't in love with? And so what we ended up doing is rounding away of like, I'm sure you're familiar with like JD Powers and Associates, like when you buy the
Hmm.
car or something like that.
Yeah.
We decided, what if we got back to the basics and onshore customer care, and we were able to take huge groups of our teams, right, our resources, and just put it on a customer. As you know, everything's a subscription model, so it actually benefits us if the customer stays with us long, not just signs
Yeah.
up. And
Yeah,
so what
of
we were doing,
course.
and just to give you an example, with this one, with Callcore specifically, um, we were able to build them a sandbox environment to come up with new operational ideas and requests to give them more sales. So it wasn't just like, well, now you have our product, so you know, good job, and we'll see it come bill time. We continued and continued and continued as they become an advocate for us. So, and as you know, when you're looking at outbound and real time performance is everything, right? So 4 to 6 week turnarounds and waits aren't really things you can afford. And
Right.
so, us being nimble enough as a smaller company, we're allowed to put these resources on. We're allowed to make changes on the fly. We're allowed to fly out. We're allowed to do these things to make the customer as happy as possible, as well as make a name for ourselves. So that way, it's really difficult to leave us and go somewhere where
Yeah.
they become more of a number, less of a family member, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
No, I mean, I think there's real value there. I've worked with Nick, who was the founder of Ytel, that
Yeah,
became a part of Sharpen, and he's the kind of guy that would get in front of customers, would help them develop functionality, and that's how he built out all the functionality that made
yeah,
up the Ytel solution that it obviously is now a part of Sharpen today. So there's a lot of value, I think, to your point, kind of those mid-market, especially types of businesses where they themselves have a smaller team. They don't have some huge group of IT or analysts and program managers and all those kinds of things. Like, they need a partner that can really collaborate with them and be flexible and dynamic and things. And you know, there's pros and cons obviously to some of the bigger
sure,
solutions as well, but you don't get a lot of that collaboration and that true personal partnership with the big
sure.
players out there. They just don't have the resources to do it.
Yeah. One of the things we are also seeing too now in the industry is and I'm speaking about outbound right now for a second, is the answering machine detection. Right now,
Right.
you
Yeah.
have Google that will say, "Hey, please leave a message or I'm trying to reach Chris Kessler.
Hmm.
And please say your name before I even ring the number." Right, and so speed to lead is starting to suffer a little bit when we're seeing that industry wide due to the fact that um, answering machine detection, right? So one of the things we were able to do just with knowing that was coming up, specifically with this customer call core, is go through and create that sandbox and test specific environments. We were able to increase another 30% of what they actually were on for the automatic or for the um, answering machine detection. And so
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
able to take that and even increase that 30% more, which is something that you usually don't do. I don't remember spending that much time with our current customers, and that's something that I think is a little bit different here at Sharpen. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's sweet. Well, and to your point, if you're doing a lot of outbound calling, any incremental improvement in connection rate, dialing rates, all of those kinds of things, I mean, it just is a direct translation to, revenue. So it'd be interesting to know. I
Exactly.
mean, I would assume that they had a pretty significant, maybe even if you're doubling, your productivity, then I would assume potentially as much as doubling their revenue on those campaigns, which
And
any
so,
business is
yeah,
going to be, you know, blown away by some impact like that. So,
yeah, definitely. And in that same vein of being nimble, transparent, and kind of a little more of the little guy that goes out and makes sure the customer's happy. There's things that we do. For example, we were just talking about number remediation, right? Like that
hmm
spam likely. That's a standalone offer that we have. You don't have to buy the system. I think I said that already. One of the other things that we do though is if a customer says, "Look, we're good. We don't need to buy anything. We already have a contact center. We already have outbound. We already have a dialer." What we're doing is we actually offer a free scrub. Meaning, let's take a look at the numbers and see if any of them come up as spam. If they do, talk to your current provider. If they don't, great. Nothing, no harm, no foul. And this is another way that we are showing that, look, it might make sense to just start small. There might be just one little point solution, like you mentioned, Chris, or just maybe one little piece um, of a pain point that you might have that we might be able to scratch that itch or at least see some value in what we're offering.
sure.
So
Yeah.
that's something we offer as well.
Cool. No, that's great. I mean, yeah, I think like that example I gave, even if you're not an outbound shop, but you have people making outbound calls for other purposes, doing that scrub is important because, again, if you're a healthcare client and your nurses can't even get a hold of people because your calls are going to spam, that shouldn't be happening. So that's just having a tool like this to break that out. That's an amazing impact. So thanks for sharing that call core example. As you kind of look at some of the things where you're breaking out the platform into these individual potential solutions, what are you seeing around some of the AI functionality that you guys have? Because you have, AI bots for voice and even for chat and other things. So I've seen a lot of my clients look at doing that, where it's like, to your point earlier, well, we don't want to have to replace our entire platform just because we want to start exploring AI. I think that there's a big opportunity there. So are you seeing a lot of clients starting to deploy just the AI bot and start to play with that and see how is this going to impact my business and customer experience and everything?
Yeah, and as you and I both know, and I'm sure anybody listening to this, is that AI is such an interesting term even. I mean, I remember down the line when we were talking about digital transformation, right? The word,
Yeah.
the two words that meant everything but nothing, right? Digital
Yeah.
transformation is
Yeah.
not using a typewriter, I guess, in that
Yeah.
definition. And then you have today where we're talking about AI and you have companies that are utilizing, I mean, AI could be spell check, I mean, the way that they
Yeah.
define it. The reason why I bring that up is because what we define AI as is more specific towards two different areas. And I'm going to keep it inside of the contact center industry for just a second here, but basically having a bot that is able to handle, we'll call it, they say mundane tasks, but really basically tier one style of contact center inquiries that are coming into the system. So we have
Mm-hmm.
AI bots that call out as well as receive calls, right? What's my password? What is my account balance? I need to pay my bill. These are all things that the bot can handle without having to pay a salary for an agent. Now, where it changes is we actually have AI that follows the call all the way through because we are a contact center technology company as well. What I mean by that is we have something we dubbed it usable AI, but basically it is just that AI is kind of massaging the shoulders of the human agent as they go along and actually help with this inquiry. Let me give you an example. So AI bot takes a call. The person wants to call in a couple of times. Maybe they've been upset. Call then ends up getting transferred some way or the other. Maybe it's they want to sell, or maybe they're upset. Gets to a human agent. Human obviously gets all the information, but also continues sentiment, right? Able to see, okay, the customers have been upset for the last three calls, so maybe now's the time to offer that discount. Or, hey, the last time they called, they asked for the new red Jordans. Just so you know, it's Black Friday and we have that on sale. Maybe you should bring that up. And this is what the AI is telling the human agent on the phone. And so this is happening while the customer is able to maybe the customer comes in and they're not so happy or something like that, or maybe they've had
Mm-hmm.
two interactions before where they were upset. We're able to utilize the AI to have the agent know that, okay, this is the third time they're still in the red. What are some things we can do? Maybe let's get an escalation right on, or maybe let's have this go directly to a tier four, right, or tier three. So that is some of the usable AI things that we are doing. Like I said, with offering like sales or the sentiment analysis, or obviously the main things too, which is just like offering up the call wrap up and taking notes and
Sure.
things like that, and
Yeah.
really taking away from the mundane tasks. And so at the very end, then obviously it will take all that information and then it will disposition and do all the stuff that an agent would have had to do at the end of a call. So we like to see AI in three phases, right? Beginning, middle, and the end of the call. And that is what we deem as AI. And are you able to buy, just the conversational AI by itself? Definitely, right? You do not have to have the contact center solution. Is it better when it works all together? Kind of like, and I'm dating myself here, like a Voltron? Yes,
Yeah.
like when you put all the pieces together, definitely the puzzle
Yep.
pieces. But
Yep.
yeah, feel free to buy that by itself as well. So that's what we're doing for conversational voice AI, and as well as our
Cool.
what we call
Yeah.
usable AI.
No, I agree. I think, being able to have it through the entire life cycle and the agent assist and all that it can be really, really powerful. I actually was talking with someone on your team recently, and they had a pretty great idea that I'm going to talk with some of my clients about. Those who have not deployed some of the customer-facing AI tools yet, and the idea was deploy this as a standalone for after-hours calls that may be coming in, right? Like this one particular client is a retailer, sell their stuff through e-commerce and a really well-known brand. It's a higher ticket item. And I believe that right now when calls come in during normal business hours, obviously it's routed through the IVR and they have a whole team. And then after hours, I think it might go to a basic IVR, but there's no interaction. I can't ask it anything. I can't, hey, what's the status of my shipment? Or I want to file a warranty claim or anything like that. And so, something like that in my mind would be a great opportunity, not only to meet customer needs who might be calling in after hours, but also start testing out how would your clients and customers react to an AI bot. People that are calling in after hours, they'd probably rather at least have that option than nothing. And so turn that on after hours, see how your customers respond, how many calls are being captured and solved with that AI bot. And then if it's successful, which I would assume it's going to be, then you can start rolling it out, in full production. But I thought that was a really great idea on a way you could kind of test it out and, not have to do a full revamp of everything that you're doing.
No, totally. We've actually toyed around and you're actually hearing it first. So
Breaking
I
news.
probably shouldn't be saying this out loud.
Okay, well, don't say it if you can't.
I'll ask for forgiveness on this one, but we're toying with a new pricing structure as well. It's called outcome-based pricing. And so, especially with the AI, when we're
Interesting.
trying to help customers understand what it actually does for them, other than just be a cool tool, this is something that we're actually offering when we're doing trials and things like that for our customers to just understand what type of containment does the AI even give them? Who knows? We don't. I know the customer doesn't because we don't work there. And so there's an element here where we say, "We'll tell you what. If we, why don't you do this? Why don't you only pay for?" And we come together as the company and Sharpen will come together and say, "Okay, well, what about some sort of outcome-based pricing? For example, like if you have, well, you only get charged every time it transfers. When it gets a hold of a real person who needs a transfer, you don't have to pay, or you only have to pay." A couple of cents every time that, a sell is made based off of what you're trying to do, or maybe just containment, right? We were able to
Mm-hmm.
contain 18%. If it falls below 18%, I'm making this up, then you don't pay. That kind of stuff is some
Sure.
of the things that we've actually kicked around just to be, again, just to try and be a little bit different in the industry and help the customer actually get to said outcome, because that makes the customer stay with us longer, as well as see us as an advocate, as opposed to just getting them
Yeah.
signed up.
Yeah. No, I
If that
think
makes
that could
sense.
really work.
So,
I mean, in that example that I was talking through, a successful outcome would be if I called in after hours and I wanted to check on the status of my shipment and I got it successfully and I hung up,
mhm,
right? It's like, hey, you
right.
gave the customer what they needed. They didn't have to make another call. They didn't have to do anything else. And you were effectively able to meet that requirement. Like that's a successful
Right.
outcome. Or you successfully took their information to file a warranty claim on the item that they purchased or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? But that's a
Yeah.
success. And I think that's key, at least from the interactions that I've had with my clients. I think we've kind of evolved with AI and a lot of these tools to a point where customers are taking a little more time to be diligent and really feel strongly that there is going to be an ROI there. Originally everyone was just deploying AI and different
Yeah.
solutions.
Yeah.
They kind of thought that if they did that, it would just result in all of these positive impacts to the
Sure.
business.
Yeah.
Everyone that did that learned the hard way that that's not how that works. And so now everybody's taking a little more time and saying, okay, why are we going to do this? What's going to be the outcome? And are we confident that it's going to actually be worth it?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so things like
Yeah.
this, I think, are really, really valuable. And I think having that collaborative partner relationship with somebody like Sharpen that can work with them, I don't know a client that wouldn't want that kind of relationship for a technology provider.
Yeah. That's what I would want. Right. I'm trying to think of exactly what I would
Yeah.
do if I was in their same shoes, for sure.
Yeah. Well, this was great. I really appreciate digging into some of these examples and taking the time, Jay. I think hopefully for those in my network that might have some similar challenges, or maybe they have interests in some of these opportunities and technologies, I think Sharpen is a great solution to make sure that you evaluate. Jay's team, in my experience, they all do a great job, and really you can get access to that kind of collaborative partner relationship. So this has been great. Thanks again, man, and look forward to working with you on some more
Yeah,
opportunities.
absolutely. Pleasure being here, man. It's good seeing you, and hope to see everybody and you again soon.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, guys.